Call the meeting to order. Today is January 6th, 2026 at 5:30 p.m. This is the Planning and Architectural Review Board. Stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we have a roll call? Paul McKitka.
Here.
Barbara Revels.
Here.
Scott Chapis.
Here.
Susie Johnston. Here. Joanne Soman.
Here.
Do we have a motion to approve the minutes of November 4th, 2025?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second. Okay. Do we have any old business? No, ma'am. All right, moving on to new business. 6A, ordinance number 2026. Drew?
Don't have to read here. That's only a commission.
Oh,
So you can just introduce it.
okay. Ordinance number 2026, an ordinance of the City of Flagler Beach, Florida, amending the land development regulations, section 2.0612, rental units of Appendix A, land development regulations, amending the process and schedule for fire inspections of resort dwellings and resort condominiums, providing for conflict, providing for codification, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
And I didn't mean to pawn the reading off on you. You didn't have to read the whole thing.
Oh, it's all right.
Did y'all want to speak about it, or do you want to introduce it? How do you want to handle it? This is a request from the fire department, but this is adjusting the way that fire inspections are handled for your short-term rentals.
Okay.
Basically, my name is Bruce Adams. I'm the fire inspector for the city of Flagler Beach. I've been part-time doing it since May. Okay, thank you. So what we did find out was that short-term rentals or vacation rentals were essentially being self-regulated. And to fix that, we decided to have an in-person inspector go and change it for yearly instead of having like a self-inspection affidavit. And that's what we're looking to try and change.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I have
Go
comments
ahead.
on the,
Go ahead, Barb.
on your document.
Okay.
Could I just make some comments?
Yeah.
So on the first page, exits and egress, it says all sleeping rooms have a secondary means of escape, window or door. Since we have so many triple-story units here, are you going to require a rope ladder or anything?
Depending on, because that is a good question, because I do run into it a lot. There's a few that that's more of just like a guideline. That's not necessarily like you have to hit every bullet point. That's something that I would go, and then I would go and inspect, and then I would inform the owner, hey, if it's like something that where the nearest exit's like across the room, like a big giant master bedroom, then there's something that have to require a secondary egress. But most of the bedrooms here are not that big, so it'd be like, if as long as they can see the exit and it's within like 10, 15 feet of them, they can get to it, that I wouldn't have to require like a rope ladder or anything for them.
On the next page, heating and electrical, it says heating appliances and water heaters properly vented and maintained. But that would only be if it was required, such as a gas hot water heater. Would you not say if required?
Yes, if required on that as well.
Okay. And then outside areas, it says fire pits and outdoor fireplaces operated per city regulations. And I don't know where those are. Where would you find those city regulations for an open fire pit?
Well, they're in the ordinances. But it's only cooking fires are allowed in the city.
Okay, so an outdoor fireplace.
outdoor fire pit or place that can be considered like a cooking fire area, like a outdoor, like a grill on top of a fire pit.
Okay, so I guess an owner of a short-term rental or the tenants that are gonna come in there,
Mm.
I guess I'm wondering whether or not there's a document that ought to be posted on site about the regulations for a fire
Yeah.
pit.
Yeah, I would have to, that would be something that I'd probably amend and give direction to the owner of the building.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions? Oh, Paul raised his hand first.
Sure. So this checklist, is that totally brand new, or was this provided previously for the self-affidavit?
This is completely brand new.
Okay. What were they checking before?
It was
Curiosity.
essentially just extinguisher dates, working smoke detectors, and that was essentially it on the affidavit.
So this is a much more comprehensive.
Much more detailed list.
Scott?
How often will you be doing?
So
Annual?
they'd be annual.
Annual?
Yeah.
Estimated fees?
Estimated fees are, and they were in the resolution that just passed. So right now we have it as, so existing ones would be paying a $200 yearly fee. Brand new permits pay $400 and then $200 going on annually.
So the city also has a fee for a short-term rental. Is that in addition to the city's fee?
No, that's the city's fee for the fire inspection, for the fee.
Yeah, but there was, I know I owned one of the Plaza Caribs and we
Yeah.
had it set up under short-term rental, and by the time we paid, the city had a fee, the registration with the state, it changed the garbage to a commercial garbage collection. It wasn't worth it. It was too much for that little one-bedroom unit.
Yes.
So I'm just saying, your fire inspection fee's gotta be in addition to your registration with the city as a short-term rental.
Yes.
Okay.
I had a question. I know we try as a city to have everyone in compliance, but we do have a lot of short-term vacation rentals that are not permitted.
Yes.
Is the fire department doing anything to be preventative towards that? Because a lot of those units would unfortunately not have any of this and be more of the hazards to the guests that are coming in.
Yes. So we are trying to be more proactive on that front, at least trying to identify risk areas.
Hmm.
There's not, like you said, there's a lot that go under the radar. So there's not a lot that we can really do until we're reported. It's more of like a see something, say something with like
Okay.
our crews that are on shift and going to respond to calls. Because I know of a few just from the crews that go and respond to calls, because there are a few out there, and I know of a few already.
Yes.
So Susie, your mom, Suzanne, when she was tax collector and they started going after the taxes,
Mhm.
she would scroll and search
Mhm.
VRBO, Airbnb,
Hmm.
and you can find them that way
Yes.
as to whether or not they're in compliance.
Also
Okay.
working directly with sanitation. Sanitation can tell you who's renting
Okay.
and who's not, just from turnover. Fire is just something that it's understandable that people are going to do things illegally, but
Yes.
this is a life and death situation.
Yeah, it's life safety.
Hmm. So maybe working directly alongside sanitation would just be a good tip for you as well.
No, thank you.
What happens when you find out that there's illegal short-term rentals?
It's a code enforcement matter, and the challenge for code enforcement, while everything that's been said here for the fire department, that's all great advice. You're looking at the Airbnb and that. Code enforcement, we have to prosecute a case based on competent substantial evidence, and that's hearsay. So unlike a court, we could introduce the hearsay evidence, but we can't rely on it for a finding. So we have to present additional evidence that's non-hearsay in order to prove it. So it becomes, usually there's a lot of monitoring of properties once we become aware of them, and code enforcement kind of monitors them, looking for cars coming and going, and get a series of license plates, Georgia this week, Florida next week, Alabama the week after that, build the story, because the Airbnb by itself doesn't get us there for code enforcement. For what you guys are talking about, it absolutely is helpful to the city.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
I have another question. So the resolution or I'm sorry, is it ordinance? The ordinance discusses that the city commission may adopt the initial fee and the annual fees. You're saying that was already been, has that already been established?
That's been resolved with the new, fee schedule.
Is that true, Drew?
It's in the fee schedule, yes.
Okay. So I guess I share what I'm assuming was, part of Barbara's concern was, the amount of that fee.
Have it all
But we're not
up front.
really considering that today. But my understanding is that's supposed to be just a cost neutral, basically whatever it costs you to do, that's what's passed on to the, is that gonna get reevaluated yearly, to potentially bring that down, or how did you guys come up with that fee?
I'm Stephen Cox, I'm the fire chief, so obviously I oversee the budget for the department. And, no, it's a good observation, right, for fees. Our intent is not to make money, right? We are here just to make sure that we can ensure operations. And with such high turnover rates with VRBOs and Airbnbs, this is something that's pretty new, I would say, to the state. When I say new, within the past 5 years, and we're seeing a pretty, rapid influx and rise in these types of short-term rentals. So they place a lot of demand on our fire inspection division because we were solely focusing on mainly businesses, which were our restaurants and our storefronts. But now we have a allocated amount of residents that can turn over into a business essentially because they're short-term. So we can't put a limit on that. And if we have another 500 or 1,000 homes that decide they want to be VRBOs, we've now taken away from our fire inspection division, which places more stress and demand on the resources that we have. And we don't want to place that burden on the taxpayers. You know, we're trying to offset that. So all the funds that are collected through that, which we found that would be appropriate, would offset the costs for our fire prevention division. And basically, our goal is to break even with those fees. So, by no means are we trying to make any monies on that. So, and I'm sure you understand the cost of things today's world is driven up drastically. So,
Do you have an estimate of how many there are to start with?
I think we estimated
About 180, and I'm getting probably 2 to 3 new ones every week.
Of short-term rental,
Short-term rentals.
and that's within is that just in tourist, commercial, and commercial? There's,
I believe it's commercial, but, I'd have to double check that, but short-term rental permits they're around 180.
okay, because I think there was like 113, 100, around in that low number of 100 grandfathered in units.
Yes.
And then, I guess now.
Yeah, we're getting probably 2 to 3 new
Okay.
ones every week.
Did you review the county's guidelines for inspection that they have?
we did compare a comparison to the surrounding areas, St. Augustine, St. Johns County, Palm Coast, Flagler County, and even as far south as like Cocoa Beach. We're trying to mimic some areas that are similar in size as the city of Flagler Beach, and they were varying widely. I think the city of Cocoa Beach was the most astronomical.
Yeah. I think even St. Augustine's they would charge per bedroom.
But I wasn't talking so much about fees.
I'm sorry.
The guidelines.
When I was at the county, Al Hadid wrote the first ordinance on monitoring short-term rentals. It was copied around the state by other counties. So we were the first as a county to adopt one of those because of all the problems they were having at Hammock Beach. And I know that it had to do with inspections and an owner being nearby and, or a management person and collection of trash and things like that. I just didn't know if you'd reviewed their guidelines because it was very comprehensive.
Yeah, so I have reviewed Flagler counties. I've also reviewed St. John's because they both are very comprehensive. They're both based on the NFPA codes, the newest editions, because there's a lot more stuff that they've added, especially for these short-term rentals and vacation rentals, because it's just a whole different ballgame when it comes to that.
And if you make an inspection and you cite something that's wrong, are you going to cite the code area that it came from, like a building official does?
Yes, that's what I do for businesses and short-term rentals now.
Okay.
So the intention of this is to create a schedule where it's consistent and that we have subject matter experts evaluating those occupancies and making sure that, A, the people who are visiting, they're safe, And we're also trying to protect the owners because, you know, there is some lack of knowledge on fire code, and we might have an individual that thinks that something like plugging in a couple extension cords together, which in reality is not acceptable. So this creates a consistent schedule where we're doing the inspections and it's not self-governed, and that we're keeping a safe community and obviously lowering our risk reduction. So.
I have one more question. Do you have a question, Barbara? And now I'm just getting into just knowing more about it. Is there will the short-term rentals, will their year cycle be upon when they apply for their permit, or how will you flow them all out so it's not so cumbersome upon the inspector?
So that would be scheduled like on a case-by-case basis by me. I will reach out to owners or maintenance companies and we can set something up because there's booking. So, you know, we have to mitigate the issues around booking and stuff. So I would be personally reaching out to property owners, property management, so that we can set up times that would be good for them.
Okay.
And I've given Inspector Adams the direction of, you know, we're here for the businesses. We're not here to try to get people in trouble.
Right.
And we understand that it is a business, and you know, with a lot of influx of people coming in and out, scheduling, we're here to work with those individuals. So we feel like it's fair if we do an initial inspection and we give a year out of, hey, can you just give us a date? And we had the conversation this afternoon that if something was to arise and they needed to push it back a week or two, we're here to work with those individuals. But what we don't want is to get so far-fetched and out of reach where we run into major violations and life safety hazards that, that threaten the public. So being on a consistent schedule is the goal for us. So.
We just field a lot of questions, and I know that would be one that someone would
Yeah,
ask.
no, no, ask away. This is what we're here for. So.
Any other questions?
I do. Go ahead. Do you have a minimum, is there anything in the existing ordinance that we have that's a minimum sleeping room size? A lot of people take master bedroom closets and put bunk beds in them.
Good question.
I'm not 100% sure on that one. I have to try and dive into it.
Any public comment?
I have a question out of curiosity.
Please come up to the, please come up and state your name.
Hi, my name is Karen Stiles. I just live locally. My question was if, say I was a VRBO owner, I'm not, unfortunately, but how long would you give the homeowner to say they needed an egress window? Because the expense of that is kind of a lot. I know I had to do that in Colorado for, renting out my mother-in-law apartment. And then, like, if you needed the rope ladder or things like that, do you have a place that you would suggest? Just something to think about, like where they can get it, or maybe you offered that they buy a rope ladder from the fire department. I don't know how that works, but, how long would they have to make that change? Because then they're losing money until the next VRBO comes in, right? If it's 6 months and a day, or if it's 2 weeks, or whatever it's the case. Like, I'm just wondering if you consider that, how long it might be, because that's a big expense in egress window, especially if they have to get several. I don't know. I don't think there's many underground egress here, but I was just curious.
Let me see if there's any other public comment, and then you can answer that. Is there any other public comment? Nope, we'll close public comment. Chief, if you can answer that question.
Yeah, again, the intention is to provide public safety. So if there was something like we have below ground grades in the city, and we had something that wasn't deemed, unfortunately, we could not allow that area to be deemed as a sleeping area. We have to prioritize the public safety first. Now, when it comes to trying to rectify things and correct things, we are here for the city. As long as we're seeing progress made towards something, obviously that's what we want to see. If there are anything that are major violations, we would obviously have to have those rectified immediately, just because of if something were to happen, we can't risk the public safety for that. So, yes, ma'am. That was a great question. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Yep.
All right, there's no other comments? Do we have a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we recommend approval of the ordinance related to fire inspections of short-term rentals.
I'll second it, but under comments, could I just ask you to maybe tweak your guidelines for a couple of those items?
Oh, okay. Do we have a roll call? Paul McKitka,
Yes.
Barbara Revel,
Yes.
Scott Chapis,
Yes.
Joanne Selman.
Yes.
Chair Johnston.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Barbara, what were those tweaks? On the first page about, the sleeping rooms having a secondary means of escape, a window or a door, but the door could be, it could be a master closet. But anyway, somehow that they would address that language. And then under the second page, heating and electrical, I think they should do a comma and say if required.
Oh, right.
Simple.
Okay.
And then if they are going to come across a property that has a fire pit or outdoor fireplace, that they, cite whatever regulation that is, so that a tenant or an owner's not going to look for what's that reg.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. All right, next we have item B, special exception application PSPE 26-0001.
And on this item, Member Rebels has submitted a voting conflict form if you'd like to declare that voting conflict, Mr. Rebels.
Yes, I'm filing any voting conflicts with the board and secretary, due to the fact that I own property within the noticed area.
Okay, thank you. Would the applicant like to come forward?
I'm Jason Clark, it's my wife Samantha. We've lived in Flagler Beach for over a decade. We're property owners in Flagler Beach, and we're actually purchased this property. We saw it go up for sale. We actually live one house over from this property, and they're all like lower ranches and small residential rental apartments in the area. And we purposely bought the property, try to have some control over what we build, what happens to it, so that someone doesn't come in and build a, 3-story, 6,000 square foot house. We're all ranches around there, with have pools and stuff, so we're trying to, purchase the property. We, obviously has to be something that we can afford to do. We currently own a 4-family rental that's right behind the property, catty corner. It's Orange One on 4th Street. We take care of our properties. We have long-term tenants. None of this is Airbnb or short-term. We make sure, we have a great working relationship with our tenants. So this property originally was multifamily, because everything in the area is multifamily. We didn't realize things changed. That's our fault there. But that's where we're here today to see if we can get the exception to do a small 2-family on the property within all the guidelines that you guys have set. And that way, it'll, we believe it'll fit better to the neighborhood than, if we put it back on the market and, as a free-for-all. We're trying to kind of keep the same vibe and, add short-term rentals to the, long-term rentals to the community. I know my tenants always ask me, people ask us all the time, do you have a rental open? So we feel like it'll add, long-term property rentals to people who work and live in the community. And, at the same time, it'll fit in nicely with the area, because there's a 3-family across the street, a 2-family across the street, a 2-family to the right. I own the 4-family behind it, to catty corner, and there's also a 2-family behind it. The Golden Lion's right there, the church is right there, the public parking's right there. So there's a 5-family rental right behind the Golden Lion.
That's me.
4-family right there. So, you own that 4-family with it? Oh, okay. All right, yeah. So is Jane the lady upstairs, or Joan?
Oh no, you've got it. Janet. Yes.
But,
Oh, you haven't sat on her porch with her?
Was there any questions for the applicant? Go ahead, Drew.
Now, your planner has a report also prepared.
Oh, okay. Our planner, Lupita.
All right, thank you. So, This is, the applicants are Jason and Samantha Clark. The intent of the applicant is to develop a duplex in low-density residential zoning, which is allowed by special exception. The future land use is low-density residential. The zoning is also low-density residential. It does have an overlay. It's in the CRA overlay residential neighborhood, which is one of the 3 planning areas within the downtown area. And in recommending approval or denial of the use, the Planning Architectural Review Board shall provide findings and recommendations on whether the requirements of Section 2.06.01 1 through 7 are met, as well as other comments that the planning board will assist the city commission in determining whether to grant the use. So the findings that are required is, number 1, that the use is permitted as a special use as set forth in Schedule 1, and it's listed in Section 204.028 under E, 2-family dwellings. So the finding is that it's identified as a permitted use in the City of Flagler Beach Land Development Code. Number 2, that the use is designed, located, and proposed to be operated at within the public health, safety, welfare, and convenience remains protected. And the use, including the design, location, and proposed, does not compromise any protection of anybody's health, safety, or welfare. And the use does not cause injury to the value of other property, and the use is compatible with adjoining development. The surrounding properties are 2-family dwellings, minimally, and the proposed 2-family dwelling unit complies with the design guidelines, the CRA residential neighborhood. I thought that they did a really great job on their concept. I'm not sure if it was included in your packet, but they did follow the design guidelines for a 2-family dwelling. So the use conforms with the applicable regulations governing the district as it relates to minimum density, setbacks, building height, max impervious surface, and parking. So the criteria meets the requirements of Section 206.01, 1 through 7. It's found to be in compliance. The ingress and egress and pedestrian safety, traffic flow are satisfactorily met. Off-street parking is met. Utilities are met. General compatibility is met. And staff recommends, the Planning Architectural Review Board recommends to the City Commission to approve the special exception allowing for the 2-family dwelling in the low-density residential district in accordance with Section 206.01. Thank you.
That was a mouthful. Are there any comments or questions?
I have a question. Lupita, way back in years ago when I was involved in some of the planning stuff here, I'm assuming that our guidelines have changed, but used to, in this whole city, if you wanted to have a 2-family dwelling, you had to have 3,750 square feet in your land. So it required you to have a 7,500 square foot lot to have a duplex. If you wanted to do multifamily, 3 units, it was 3,000 square feet per unit, or a 9,000 square foot lot to have 3 units. That's gone now?
Well, it's
Because if it's still there, the lot doesn't meet the criteria.
that's correct. It does not meet that criteria. However, in 2000 the first year I was here, I guess I've only been here a year and a half. When we were working with FEMA, the plat for the city is based on 50-foot lots, except for maybe on Lambert where they're 75-foot lots and a few 100-foot lots. So we did amend the code with working with the Florida Florida Division
Of emergency management?
Yes, FDEM, because if something should have happened and people wanted to rebuild and that requirement was there, we couldn't really do that, and there really isn't lots that are platted that way. So it was changed. Now what happened was it was not codified in all of the zoning. So that's part of the cleanup that we have to do. So it was changed to 50-foot lots, and that changed it.
That doesn't mention the depth of the 50-foot lot? Because there are 50-foot lots in town that are 150 foot deep. And in that case, you could do a duplex.
Yes.
That's 7,500 square feet. but on a 50 by 100, it won't fit. I mean, yes, what they're building will fit. I'm just saying that that's
Yeah,
what I
the
read
design
said.
guidelines and what they're creating does fit on a 50 by 100 lot. So the planning board did make that recommendation, did change it from, and that was based on density, and that's not really how density is based. It's not, and so the wording in that was 3,000 and some, needing 3,000 per was based on density, and that's not really how density is calculated. So it meets the criteria. Now, there does have to be some changes working with Unicode, and showing them the ordinance that's changing it to 50 by 100, as minimum lots. And that aligns us with the plat, the existing plat.
I am not opposed to this at all, and I'm not
But that's
trying to say,
what-
I just wanted to make sure that we were within our proper regulations, so we weren't taken to task later because we allowed something we shouldn't have.
Yes, we do have to work with Unicode, resend that ordinance so that it's now populated in all sections of the code, not just the one section where it was changed.
So the wording about the 3,000 square feet and the 3,750, that isn't anywhere in there?
It is in there. It's based on, and they calculated.
Let me try and take a run at it, Lupita. I think what Lupita is saying is that the ordinance was adopted. It has not been reflected on Muni code yet. So if you look on Muni code, you won't see it, but the commission adopted that ordinance. Is that what you're saying?
But I think what she's speaking of is what they adopted was the reproduction, the cost of replacement in the event of a storm. No? Okay, I thought what they did through the Department of Emergency Management, they did that as far as being able to.
Yeah, when we worked with them, it was brought up that, listen, if something happens and this is a requirement here, people won't be able to rebuild. You remember that?
that now.
Right.
Yeah, and so when we amended the ordinance and sent it in, Municode didn't pick it up for every single section. So that's part of the cleanup, that some time we'll have to clean up. Does that help, Barbara?
Yeah, I
Okay.
just wanted to make
Yeah,
sure we
no,
were
that's
good.
a good question. I mean, and you do know your code, and that's great.
Well, it was a long time
Lupita,
ago.
will it be done soon? Because right now, it probably would cause an insurance issue if the place burns down and code says you can't rebuild the way it was.
That's what Lupita is saying, is the code, the code that is adopted by the city, that is the code, regardless of what Muni code says.
Okay,
It's not an adoption issue, it's a Muni code reflecting what the current code says
Okay.
issue.
right.
And to answer your question, Scott, yes, it's on our things to do book.
Getting longer now.
Getting very long. Any other comments?
Yeah, I'll say my initial reaction was, well, why do we need to do it? You know, I live over there and I didn't realize there were so many multi-units there already, so, which is great. I think if we can incorporate multi-unit housing in a way that doesn't feel like giant, big multi-unit housing, which I think is your plan. Right, which I think your plan's in line with that, so, yeah, that's great. I did have a question though for you. You did, only because you specifically mentioned it on your application, you said you're requesting the permit for a 2-unit duplex as long-term affordable housing on the lot. What is your game plan for affordable housing?
I've used that term before and it got me in trouble, so I might use that term. My thought process is we want to try to get this done and have, rentals, 2 rentals, roughly 1,000 square foot, depending how we work everything out with you guys, and then have that be like somewhere around $1,700 a month, which, I mean, I guess from where I come from, that's affordable, to live in this, when I moved out, I couldn't move back in. So affordable, not in the sense of HUD or Section 8 or nothing like that, just another opportunity, someone who lives in Flagler Beach, say for under $2,000 or $1,500 a month.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Do we have any public comment? Come forward, state your name and your address, please.
Hi, my name is Sharon Stile, and I reside at 300 North 4th Street, pretty much across the street from some of the properties being discussed. I'm a homeowner there, and I submit a letter in full support of my neighbors Samantha and Jason Clark. Their request to construct a duplex or similar residential structure on the land, they recently purchased. I had a letter in the mail, sent it to our neighbors, that's why I'm here. Samantha and Jason are exemplary, neighbors, respectful, responsible, and deeply invested in maintaining the character and quality of our community. Their current home and apartment building are impeccably maintained. Jason does all the work himself. I try to get him to come help me at my house, but, yeah, I know, yeah, oh, yeah. All right. With long-term tenants and beautifully kept grounds. They take great pride in their properties and ensure that their presence enhances rather than disrupts the surrounding neighborhood. The parcel under consideration is currently overgrown and receives discarded debris from pedestrians walking to nearby businesses. Oh my. Samantha and Jason have already made efforts to begin improving the site as time allows with the holidays, like cleaning up it up or like the forest. Anyway, yeah, it's like, yeah, it looks like enough. Approving, whoops, sorry, approving construction will allow this neglected land to be transformed into an attractive, well-maintained residential property, improving safety, curb appeal, and community surroundings. Jason's craftsmanship and attention to detail are reflected in everything he touches, from landscaping to maintenance to thoughtful design choices. I have every confidence that whatever structure they build will complement our beach community and reflect the same pride and care seen in our existing properties. Just as importantly, Samantha and Jason are active, supportive members of Flagler Beach. They represent and support local businesses, city staff, first responders, police officers, neighborhood initiatives, and community volunteer efforts. Their involvement contributes positively to the well-being, safety, and spirit of our town. This project represents responsible property ownership, private investment in community improvement, and a sincere commitment to preserving neighborhood quality. I believe it will add value, reduce debris, and strengthen the residential character of our North Side Queens neighborhood. For these reasons, I respectfully and wholeheartedly encourage the approval of their building plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? We close public comment. Bringing it back up here to the board. Any other?
Where'd the wall come from? The wall. It's been there. Was it part of one of the old houses in the area? It was probably, the houses back in the 20s, 30s, 40s, a lot bigger, more parcels. Your house was? Okay.
Where there was like a light in the post at some point.
I'll be darned.
Concrete pillar, there was
Yeah.
a light in there at some point in time, so. We've been here over a decade and coming down like 15 years and never seen
Yeah.
anything on there.
Just wondering.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I'll move that we recommend approval of the special exemption application PSPE 26-0001.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Do we have a roll call?
Joanne Soman,
Yes.
Scott Chapis,
Yes.
Paul McKitka,
Yes.
Chair Johnston.
Yes. I just wanted to say thank you for doing this procedurally instead of sneakily. Congratulations. Item 6C, final site plan. Item 6C, final site plan application, PMS 26-0001. Lupita? Thank you.
So the applicant is Joseph Pizzulli, and the project is the Barwick Bank Company, and the property is about 1.9 acres. It's vacant, undeveloped land. They did get a permit for demolition earlier this summer. The intent is a 3-story, 35-foot height commercial building. The height at the top of the parapets, just for everyone's information, is going to be 41 feet, which is allowable in our code. The total area is 8,000, and the total under AC is going to be just a little over 6,000 square feet. The design guidelines establish 3 planning areas, and this one is in the downtown mixed-use district. They meet all the minimum site improvements. all the principals, including parking and off-street parking. They are going to be utilizing the parking pool with 16 spaces out of the parking pool. All the parking areas are going to be properly screened and landscaped and lighted in accordance with Section 504. And I think that you did see the site plan, and that includes the parking lots and pedestrian circulation. And staff recommends, the Planning and Architectural Review Board recommends to the City Commission to approve the final site plan for the Barwick Bank on the condition that St. John's Water Management District review and approve the stormwater requirements. That concludes my presentation.
Okay. Report. Would the applicant like to come forward?
Let me turn on Joseph Pizzulli, architect, representing Barwick Bank. Since this is in the CRA, we do follow the architectural guidelines that are part of the Land Development Code. This would be considered a classical revival, and we utilize the flat roof, carpets, cornices. We have transoms. We have sills, French doors. We are in a design discipline of a classicism, which then we tried to emulate the late 1980s architects Burnham and Root from Chicago, which designed some of the original, they called them the high-rise architects, and it was an 8-story building. But if you look at the front facade, we used a black marble around each side of the door and up around the balcony to emphasize entry. And then our pilasters are going to be a white salt and pepper. Utilizing the downtown design district setbacks. We have a 10-foot setback off of South Daytona, and I believe it's a 5-foot off of the side street. And then even on the interior lot, if you look at the site plan, we left it 2 feet off the property line because we could go 0 lot line, but we wanted to leave 2 feet, so if we had to maintain and paint and do things to the structure later on, we could do that. If someone knocks down that little 1-story building next door and they wanted to build right on the property line, they could. So we're kind of being sensitive in some design aspects. On the southwest corner, it's not a 3-story building. It has at the 3rd floor roof is a mechanical balcony, and it doesn't go. I mean, the 2nd floor has a balcony, and it doesn't. So we didn't do a 3-story there. So it's kind of being somewhat respectful to the smaller structure next to it. And then the existing sidewalk on the side street, which is 2nd Street, we maintain that because if for some reason, I think some people park on some of the concrete right now, and it's a little bit.
Park on the what?
The concrete. There's a little concrete slab there, but we're going to just make sure it's just a sidewalk for pedestrian purposes. And we have, architecturally, we left a base to the building. We're trying to follow those guidelines implicitly, and of course, if you know me, I'm going to try to take it even to the 10th degree and make it proportionally appealing and proportionally correct. So I think all 4 elevations are very nice. On the corner, we have to do a 45 degree, and that's supposed to be, the intent is that you know, in our downtown guidelines, the intent on the 45 degree is that that is our entry to the building, and that's very respectful to historical architecture. And that's what we did do, and that's the entry that you'll see the black marble with the black um, surround, black railing at that one particular area, which then we repeat up top in between the parapet as we jog them up and down. But it allows us to take the pilasters all the way up. Um, and I'm here if you have any questions.
Building.
I have a question.
Yeah, are you done? Joseph, were you done?
Yeah.
Okay, Barbara?
Where's the access to the roof?
So I don't show it, but there's going to be a ladder off the
Third floor deck?
it's the third floor
Okay,
deck
okay.
that would go up to the roof. But the mechanical, really, the only thing that will be up there, since we can no longer take elevator shafts or stairwells to the rooftop, is roofing and vents. But the mechanical equipment, we are intending to be on that third floor deck.
Is the building going to be sprinklered?
I don't believe, no. No, it's not over 10,000 square feet. It's going to be all reinforced masonry, hollow core floor systems. It's basically non-combustible. And and thank God our client was on board for that kind of a structure, which is very nice. Stucco marble. Well, it's really a porcelain tile that looks like real marble. It's very nice. I have samples in my office if you want to see them. And currently we have walk-up tellers on the south side and some benches and we have tippy carts. We have a little, instead of a or a dumpster enclosure, there'll be the tippy carts. We meet all the criteria for a 24-foot wide driveway, and then on the east side, it's an 18-foot with a 2-foot overhang, and that's into our landscaping. And on the east side, it's an actual 20-foot deep parking space. We need two means of egress out of the building. So on the front, we have a front and rear accessible route for handicap. I think that's kind of it. If you have
Pretty
questions.
building.
Thank you.
I only have one question, and it's not for Joseph. It just basically pertains to always the looming question that we have, the parking. The parking pool. So it's 16 spaces.
My question too. Thank you.
Who's keeping track of this number? I keep got to be getting. Well, we
Yeah.
have the north side parking pool too, and so I was wondering if this was pulling from the north side parking pool.
No.
Not, and we do have the figures, and we're not exhausted yet, and I can, have them forwarded to you, so you know.
I'm just curious
Yeah.
at this point.
Yes, we still have spaces.
And how did you determine how many spaces are in a pool?
It was by ordinance, from the beginning, and then as people applied, we subtracted.
I mean, where did you come up with 400 or 200?
So-
the number?
That's a good question.
I can answer that.
Okay, John.
I think he can.
Uh,
Take off your hat, put on your old hat.
My old hat. And Barbara, I don't know if you remember or not, but you were inspirational in us rewriting the mixed-use contract, land development code, because at that time we couldn't develop anything because you had to have residential and commercial, but they wanted 50-50.
Right.
And that was impossible because of the parking requirements. So our city manager at the time, and myself and maybe a couple other people, maybe Lee Stokes at the time, we were like, how do we stop not allowing development. So we said, let's count the public parking spaces in the CRA, and that's what we did. And how, and the north side had more, I don't know, one side had more than the other. One was 198 and one was, I don't know, 127 or something. And that's how we developed.
So public would have been like the beach, the, city lots, the side, the
Side parallel, yep, yep, exactly,
What, central here,
yep. So it'd be, so basically how the CRA goes 9th to 9th, and then wedding cakes wider on A1A, we counted those spaces, yep. I think it was Bruce Campbell who might have been the city manager at the time.
no, it was Larry, it was 2017. Because it was this spot where Johnny D's is, there was gonna be a hotel, a little boutique hotel that was going to go in there. And it got declined because it was less 2 parking spots, and that's why the parking.
Oh, that's right, yeah, and I designed that boutique hotel, and then HC Build took it over and
Yep.
used it as a parking lot for all its equipment.
Yes.
And then when they left, they asked me if the boutique could go back. But it was too late. That's right, that's correct. We didn't have enough parking, and I think Flagler Fish was trying to get something expanded, so it was the boutique
Yes.
hotel.
Flagler Fish was the first one to use it,
I was
Yeah.
wondering if Flagler Fish had already tapped into that parking pool spot, have they like reserved their spaces?
Yes, they have 28, spaces, right now allocated. So we have 30 spaces remaining in the south side and 44 spaces remaining on the north side.
And then we'll have to come up with a new plan.
And thanks for those numbers. I would love to, in future applications, I would love to see that number if it's easy to include, just so we don't have to ask every time. Thanks.
Any other questions?
Joseph, I'm just wondering, because of parking, can a building like this not be put up on piers and then we just use 2 floors for, and underneath is parking? I mean, the hotel did a lot of that, all underneath the rooms of the hotel. But does it messes up costs? Is obviously there's less real estate.
Well, it's a financial institution, and I mean, people they're hoping that it's a community bank. They want people to walk to it.
But just open discussion of any new building being put up, could we consider?
Of course. Oh, yeah, you could.
Using the airspace, you know, you have 2 floors on it, 2 floors of use, and the first floor's gotta be parking.
You still need 2 means of egress. You have 2 stairwells, and you have an elevator, vestibule, and for South Florida, where I moved here 22 years ago, they did that often because of the cost of land, and they needed the parking. So the only thing on the ground was parking and 2 stairwells and an elevator vestibule.
Just food for thought. because
Well, in the future, that might be what,
70-something units until
Yeah.
we got another problem on our hands.
yeah.
Or continuation.
I mean, we have lots in town that need parking, and that would be a good viable solution.
I mean, like, you know, and I hate to say it, the guy up on what we just did here on the 3rd, 4th Street, he's building it now. You know, I hate to say it, you're gonna lose a floor of productivity, but you're gonna have parking.
Yeah.
So, at least a half floor. Park another 6, 8 cars under there if it was designed differently.
I think we're about a decade away from having the density population with all these new developments coming around where a parking structure would be viable year-round. But eventually, we will have one, just like St. Augustine did 20 years ago. But that's not our case right now.
That's right.
You know, other than that, I love, it looks great. I have no issues with this.
I just wanted to say I appreciate the use of some unused space in the parking lot, having a dedicated golf cart spot. Thank you.
I was gonna say, I love the corner entrance. It really, it's a beautiful building.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions for the applicant before we open it up for public comment? None? All right, we'll open up for public comment. You'll state your name and your address. No one rush. All right, we will close public comment and bring it back to the board for a motion.
I move approval.
All right, do we have a second?
Recommend approval. Recommend, sorry, thank you.
I'll second. You'll second it.
Yeah.
And a roll call. Paul McKitka,
Yes.
Barbara Rebels,
Yes.
Scott Chapin,
Yes.
Joanne Soman. Chair Johnston.
Yes. All right.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure being in front of you again.
With such positivity.
That's right.
Item 6D, ordinance number 2025-29.
Yes, ma'am, and this is a mandate from the legislature in Tallahassee. And this is a form, there's a couple that are floating around, but this is one of the few forms that everybody is using. And so what the state has mandated is that every city and county adopt an ordinance that establishes a process for the ADA reasonable accommodation standard for certified recovery residences. Certified recovery residences is a state-defined term. They do that certification. It's not every recovery residence. It's one that the state has certified. And the reason why this is kind of amorphous as it is, and why it came to us as amorphous as it did from the state, is there are 4 levels of certified recovery residences in the state of Florida. At your level, I can't remember which one's top. I think level 4 is the most dense. Level 1 is the least, but I could be wrong. But at the most dense extreme, you are talking about your multi-bed facility, recovery facility. At your least intense, you are talking about your residential structure, your recovery home. That's a place where somebody goes to after the recovery, where they're learning to live on their own again. So it's amorphous because they're passing an amorphous thing down to us. This is not telling cities and counties that they have to approve them. It is telling us that we have to have an ADA process. So really what they're doing is forcing us to codify. They've codified on the state level and are now telling us to put into our codes the process that already existed, that had been created by the courts. Because under ADA, whether there's a code for it or not, if you have a disability, you have the ability to come to whatever is preventing you from being accommodated and ask for a reasonable accommodation. This creates the mechanism for the reasonable accommodation request. And so that would come to your planning department. Planning department would make the determination. That would be based on the planning principles. So if you were to put that multi-bed facility, or if you were to apply, I need a reasonable accommodation to put a multi-bed facility in this single-family residential neighborhood, I know what's going to happen with that application. And then the ordinance goes forward. So when that denial comes, then it moves up the ladder, ultimately to the commission for that final decision on the appeal of the denial. But this is not putting residential treatment facilities in residential neighborhoods. This is creating the process for them to request that reasonable accommodation.
Okay.
But somebody could have a 5-bed recovery house if they went through the process.
If they went through the process and got approved. And then the factors you'd be looking at there would be compatibility with the surrounding area.
Right.
Exactly.
The same way it is for a school and a church and every...
Exactly. Very similar to that, yes, ma'am. It would be that kind of review. What's different here, and it's the same thing we saw with the affordable housing, the state, as part of the mandate here, they want us to minimize public hearings. They want it to be an administrative review, minimize cost to applicants. That's why you see the administrative review with appeal through the public process.
Do you have to approve, like, ACLFs, the houses for, like a nursing home, adult living congregate facilities?
I think I would, but I think they used to have like an occupancy, a bed occupancy from somebody. I'm not sure how they do it now, but that's how it used to be done.
Under a certain number of beds,
They're all over Palm Coast. I just didn't know if we had a procedure for that, or if you had to apply. Oh, yeah.
And part of the reason for the state doing what they did here is if you go through counties, usually is, and actually often where you will see recovery, the facilities particularly, is in unincorporated counties, because most cities, there's not a zoning district you could put one in. And so the legislature actually took a less heavy-handed approach here than we saw with affordable housing, because they said adopt a process as opposed to telling us you have to allow them. But I think the concern among some on the city side is that if there aren't changes that flow from this, we could still be staring down that of the state eventually having to cram down and saying, look, you've got to have them somewhere, so we've got to make a place for them. That they did not do this go around.
Any other questions?
Move approval. What else you gonna do?
Do we have a second?
Second it.
All right.
Move approval to recommend.
Move approval to
I'm
recommend.
gonna learn.
Michelle's good, she always reads approval to mean recommend approval.
Public comment?
Oh, yes, thank you. Public, like to open up for public comment?
Use the hordes.
Mhm. All right, we'll close public comment.
Joanne Soman.
Yes.
Scott Chapin.
Yes.
Barbara Rebel.
Yes.
Paul McKitka.
Yes.
Chair Johnston.
Yes. All right, any other business?
No, ma'am.
Lupita?
I have a small city planner report. Last year at this time, I gave, the board kind of an overview of what we were gonna be working on over the year. I have not completed that yet, but I still, it's begun, I have it. So what we're gonna be looking at is we have some requirements, some map requirements that we have to provide, to the state. And I provided that to the county, so I'm still needing, to get those maps. So that's one of the things that you'll be seeing. We did just, it's hot off the press, December 31st, the Northeast Florida Regional Council submitted to the county their adaptation plan that follows the vulnerability assessment that was completed. Everybody following me on this? The county is reviewing that as a courtesy from the Northeast Florida Regional Council before it goes to the state. So once it goes to the state, that adaptation plan is going to be for the entire county. And so it does have some strategies in there, and one of the strategies that you'll see is a strategy that you've seen in every single stormwater master plan assessment that's been done in the city, which is talking about the bioswales that properties have. And so that's a big project, because it is going to be requiring some folks to remove the grass and other things that have been planted in that area that's keeping the water from moving. So you'll see that adaptation plan. So we'll likely make some recommendations for the resilience elements in our comprehensive plan, which we don't currently have. I am working and finishing up the job description for our GIS personnel that we're going to hire. So I'm working with some of my network to do that, because we need, first of all, somebody who knows how to gather all the data from all the departments that we're going to use, and then a GIS person, so that the end users, which would be folks like us, can just push the button without having to know what a vector is or all the other stuff that GIS comes with. Some of the other things that we're going to be working on, Lisa did bring up having maybe an education, an outreach with the board, since we have a little bit of a turnover. So I'm reaching out to APA, the local chapter, to see if they have a training for the planning board. I think that would be helpful and useful. And then working internally with the department, we have some ordinances that we'd like for the planning board to review, so that we can clean up some of the ordinances that we have to enforce. And so some of them are not that easy to enforce, and so we would like to get the spirit of the ordinance, understand the spirit of the ordinance, but at the same time, we have to find a way that we can enforce it easier. So we do have some ordinances that have some gray areas that we'd like to bring to the board. Maybe perhaps at a workshop and not so formal, so that we can have a big discussion about some of those ordinances and where it might be gray. But I mean, I'd like to leave that up to the board if they're in favor of that. I know staff would really appreciate having that opportunity to be able to to say this is a little bit difficult. And I know code enforcement calls Drew all the time, but it's because it's gray. So I still have my report of accomplishments that I'm finishing up from last year. You guys did a lot of work as far as ordinances go, and we did catch up with legislation, which was outdated since 2021. So we're up to date with that, except for what might happen, this year. And there was one more thing, and I can't think of what that might be right now. I apologize. But I do have a work plan that I'd like to present, like I did last year, to the board, and then get some input from you all for that. So I'm a little bit behind on that, and I apologize. I do have the mobility plan, some documents that I want you all to look at and review. That's moving forward, and that was kind of exciting. I missed having you there, Paul. I'm not sure who was all there, but I'm excited about that plan. Yes, you were there, but I missed you, and yes, so sorry. So, I'll forward that information to you all, as well. And we talk about it all the time, and I can't remember what else it is. So, I'm behind with my report of accomplishments. It's drafted. I'll give that to you all, and thank you very much for last year, for what was accomplished, and then what we can do for this year. And then this Thursday, as you know, is going to be the city commission meeting, the second reading for Summertown. You don't want to miss that show, I'm sure. And and then I'll read that adaptation plan. It's a draft that it's just hot off the press. It's not provided to the state yet, so we can't do anything with it. And that concludes my finance report.
Paul, do you have any comments? Barbara?
Our next meeting is the first week of February. Okay, I'll be gone, so.
Scott? I have two. One, when will the board be voting on the new member to replace Bodie? I know that it's the second reading of Summertown, so I know their agenda is very packed.
So from what I understand, I don't know how many applications they've received. It was supposed to be on the last commission meeting, and then it disappeared. So I don't know if it's a matter of lack of applications, but I will follow up with Penny and find out where the status is, and I can send out an update if you'd like.
Okay.
I think I term off. I mean, my term expires in May.
Well, you can't leave now.
No, I'm not going to.
I'll check on all of that, and I'll follow up with you guys.
And then I have one other comment. This one was it was just an overall comment to see how this would go. I noticed, I'm sure you guys see, the 3-story building that's going up on the corner, might be 2nd Street North, wraps around, that sidewalk has been closed for now quite some time.
Right.
And I know that we have other buildings that are going to be coming up on A1A. Is there a way that we can say, don't close the sidewalk? We're trying so hard to be a multimodal city, and it is just, at this point, I just see it's dangerous. And it's just reshaping A1A, and then we had the hotel closed, and we had 100 with sidewalk issues. And I was just going to ask if moving forward, they could come up with a different solution besides closing sidewalks.
Maybe, maybe not. It depends on what work is going on that's causing it. If it's overhead work, it's actually a public safety issue because they don't want people on those sidewalks.
Can they not do scaffolding like they do in New York City, and people can walk underneath it? I know it's an inconvenience, but now we have had almost 2.5 years of that sidewalk being closed after this one, and
But the building looks good.
but it's slow. Everything takes so long. So I was just bringing that up for future, put it in the back of everyone's brain type of thing.
Would be fabulous.
Yeah,
Works in New York.
that was my thought. That was all I had.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
So do we have any requirements currently for like a pedestrian maintenance of traffic when building permits or site plans are submitted?
That's a really good question. I'll ask the building officials.
Because I think that's the one you're talking about. I mean, I do believe they have like the signs for a detour or whatever, but that doesn't help the fact
Right.
that it's closed. But I I know there's requirements for the detour, but also if we would be able to evaluate the maintenance, you know, the pedestrian maintenance of traffic, if that's something we could approve or.
Well, not for nothing, it's on a parade route, it's,
Yep.
and now we're on like our third or fourth parade of this happening. It's also, it's just A1A is a main thoroughfare for so many activities, the races that they do, the nighttime races. And they did have the detour, but now we're taking them off sidewalks and down side streets, and it just becomes, it's dangerous. And an inconvenience.
Okay, I'll ask the building official, I'll
Okay.
start there, and see.
I mean, we can't do anything about it now, but just put that one in the back of everyone's mind for when something does come forward.
So is the board in favor of a small workshop? That, to bring forward some items that we can,
As long as it's not the one we had, 4 years ago that we started at 5 and went to 11.
no, we'll have a
The
beginning
next time I
and
brought
end.
snacks.
Oh my gosh, I know which one you're
You were
talking.
there,
I was
yes.
there, I died twice.
I'll provide the gray area ordinances up front.
Okay.
So that we can see that it's a, you know, great spirit of the ordinance, but it's just really hard to enforce. And so, you know, and there's some things that the code enforcement doesn't enforce that the police department enforces, but it's really hard for folks to understand who's does what.
Great idea.
Who's responsible for what, so. Some of those.
That's all I have. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
We are adjourned.